Today's episode is sponsored by Billy Keel's Advisory Services. If you want to learn more about how to make your 99 optional, just go to makeitoptional.com. Once again, that's makeitoptional.com.
Helping you build freedom without losing your edge. This is the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels.
One of the main reasons that I love this podcast is because I get to sit down and share conversations with individuals who are inspirational, that are take your knowledge to the next level, and international. And so the guest for today, check this out, not only has invested over 2 decades in the tech space, B2B specifically, both in sales and sales leadership. Hold on to your seats, because not only has he worked with 75 plus clients around the globe, he has traveled across 33 different continents and personally investing and elevating the level of the sales professional. Over 23,000 of them. Yes, I did say 23,000 of them personally. This guy's even got his own podcast. He's a co-host of You Buying This, the podcast. And it gives me great pleasure today to welcome the managing partner of Kinsey Partners, who is the creator of the Lexicon sales method, the one, the only, Mr. Eric Shaver. Welcome to the show, man.
It's great to be. I don't even know what to do with that. That was way bigger than I am. That was a great intro. Can't believe I'm finally on this. I'm loving it. Been looking forward to this day for a long time. Just looking for the right time slot, organic entry point is going to be fun.
We made it happen. I'm so excited about it. And I really, literally, I cannot wait for so many people around the globe to get to know more about you, where you started, how you're continuing to impact others. And I know that I have personally benefited from learning from you, being mentored by you, and also knowing you as a friend. So, but the thing is one of the things about being able to do this podcast is that it gives me an opportunity to even learn more, because I like to get into the details. And one of the things that I would like to start off by saying, thank you very, very much for your service, sir.
I'm honored to be on this podcast, especially given what you've done with it. So it's very cool. Very cool.
Well, appreciate that, man. And so you've done so many different things in your life, but I'm going to ask you specifically to go back to 1991. You're breaking in to sales management. You're doing things. You're focusing on raising revenue, and the world is your oyster. Everything's in front of you.
That's true.
Talk to me about what was it like back for Eric, 1991, getting into your corporate role, the world's in front of you. Talk to me about, how did you see things? We'll get to how things became, but talk to me about if you can go back to that time.
Well, I haven't been asked that in a long time. It seems like a lifetime ago, which when you say 1991 and I do the math on that, that's a little scary. I was like everybody else. I was, you go back to my, I think I didn't look at my own resume. As when I got promoted to being a sales manager. Is that what we're looking at?
That's it.
So it was really funny because I went into tech sales, software sales very deliberately, right? I started off, getting out of college, backpacking through Europe, no direction, didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. Had rent waiting for me when I got to Boston in an apartment, and sales found me. Like, I didn't find sales. I think sales finds most of us. I don't think we find sales. I don't know many parents that encourage their kids to go carry a quota and make mommy and daddy so proud. Right. But I got into this. I was like at a pinch me type software company. Got into an amazing software company. Incredible. What it really meant is incredible product market fit. which is always easier, right? But was still, you're just so, graduating uni in 1986, you don't know a hell of a lot. You're just still so young professionally. But to your point, it was like that whole, I believed everything I was told. You could make incredible amounts upside. It's up to you. It's your business. Sky's the limit. No cap on your comp plans and all that. But got a taste of the software world, and I loved it for no reason. No reason I should have. I'm not technical. I've got an economics degree, and not even the econometrics, smart stuff. I'm on all theory, macroeconomics, ISLM curves, the whole bit. But yeah, just was classic of also not really understanding this game of sales, what it really means. Just it was so follow the rules, do the process, do all these things, and everything will be just magical. And then learning that's not the way it really works, right? It's a lot of these things are just structural, but they don't guarantee success. But yeah, man, I think I had the same Pollyanna view that I'm going to make $500,000. I wasn't being unrealistic. A year, and I was going to be able to wear casual clothes, to a professional environment and have incredible benefits and just a chill software company thing. Yeah, I think it makes me no different than anybody who goes into software. I mean, also, I've got a healthy dose, I think, like most salespeople, of undiagnosed ADD. A lot of squirrel moments. But the one thing I realized is, the fun thing about growing older is you start to realize what your intelligence is. And I realized I'm not good at a lot of things. Like, don't ask me to do geometry and all that. But I realized my type of intelligence was more verbal and communications oriented, making me, I guess, the perfect fit for sales. Like, you're a good talker, which we all learn is excrement later, right? Selling isn't about talking, or it's about word economics, not just word flow. But yeah, man, I was just as wide-eyed, and the sky's the limit. And then, reality kicked in over the next decade, and you start to realize, okay, maybe what I was told wasn't totally true. And then I went into startups. That's a whole different idea about how that path started.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that, right? But so one of the things that you're already talking about is, so sales finds you, right? And I've spent over 2 decades, almost 3 decades in the corporate world, in the almost 2.5 decades in the enterprise software sales space. But you talked about something that's really important, because you talked about a lot of the theory, right? And you're a really smart guy. You have this self-deprecation kind of thing. Like, you're a very intelligent gentleman, cum laude, and all this kind of stuff, right? And there's the theory, and then there's the reality. And it sounds like you early on got a fix, or you were exposed to that. What was happening with you in that moment in time where you said, "Oh, I learned all of this theory, and it sounded like it was going to work this way, but actually, as I'm bashing, or maybe not say bashing, but as you're crashing the phone every single day."
Bashing's not inappropriate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. It's a little inside joke between the two of us. So you see this difference between the theory and the practice. How do you navigate that at that point in your life?
I think a big part of it is that we all start very professionally naive, right? We believe what we're told. And, you and I come from, I think, similar backgrounds, kind of that solid middle class, keep your head down, work hard, do what you're told, and good things will happen. And, I believed a lot of what I was told, figuring those that came before me, figured it out and all that. One of the first things I realized was the 3 T's were very much reality in sales: territory, timing, talent. The great triumvirate of sales success, right? And realize that territory and timing mattered a whole lot, especially in enterprise. When you get into enterprise sales, where you're dealing with assets that take, have 5, 7, 10-year life cycles or amortization, timelines. And then realize, it's not all just follow the rules and everything works out. Follow the process and everything works out. That there were a lot of flaws, right? A lot of flaws in the whole sales model that we take to market. And that, I was watching, you just have to observe, right? You watch some of your colleagues, some who are absolutely crushing it. And you're like, are you that much better than me? Or, when I was, having some better years, we know ourselves, we can tell the difference, was that all me, or was it the product, or was that timing, or were those my accounts? And also really starting to realize we didn't have the control, especially in tech sales, we didn't have the control that we thought we had. It's very illuminating when you live it. And then you start to realize, how much you have to backfill on your own, how much you have to, anybody who said there's so many things that are wrong in the sales profession, and every profession can claim that. But to me, the things that were my aha moments was we are the only, and still mostly are, we're the only professionals in the business world who don't have educational credentials, who don't get a degree, even an undergraduate degree in what we do. You may have heard 2 decades ago, 1 decade ago, you get a certificate in sales over here. But it was more like, okay, so we're the children of a lesser God. Marketing gets a degree, engineering gets a degree, all the business functions get a degree. We start our jobs with no foundational knowledge or understanding. Go read a book, watch this video, listen. And back with me, I was listening to these cassette tapes in my car of Brian Tracy of, Selling Mastery or something like that. And just like, like someone dying of thirst, just give me something I can use on my next call. Give me the close, give me some skills. Yeah. But yeah, man, I realized early on that we are given false hope and a structure that does not come anywhere near to be enough for us to follow that line, and you're going to hit 100% of your goal or more. That was very sobering to realize, holy crap, this is nothing more than a strong suggestion. And the thing I love the most is, we get held to certain measures and operating standards. And we're like, wait a second, our prospects and customers could care less about our discovery requirements or the sales process we want to take them through, or the entry and exit criteria of our sales model. Like, they literally could care less. And yet our mandate is to force them through that. It was like, what the hell is this? What do we like? Doesn't someone smarter than me know that this is only half of the equation, maybe less?
It's interesting, right? When you start to realize that, because then you're saying a number of different things that are going through my head, and as I'm thinking about the sales and sales leadership aspect, you talk about not having the same credentials as everybody else, but it's the one function in an organization that if that function doesn't perform, no one else has a job. Yes, in essence, right? And everyone else has certifications, everyone else has formal education, and the sales, and that doesn't exist. Number one. Number two, you also hit on something else. So you're navigating through this path. You're understanding that, hey, listen, there's a theory, there's the reality, and you're navigating it, recognizing you're looking for the silver bullet, the magic pill, and all this kind of stuff. But you got to keep doing as you move forward. So you have this first phase, and then you say you're getting ready to get into another phase, which is a kind of a startup phase. You're starting to go into this other world before you land where you have spent the majority of your career as a business owner, helping very large enterprises. But before we get to that part and what you have been doing and how you have innovated and created a sales method known as Lexicon, what did you learn through that period of startup world?
That was the education. The startup world was really where I learned. I learned how business worked. When you take away the air cover of a known brand and that brand equity and that brand awareness, that's gone. And you take away a balance sheet with a lot of cash on it, right? To remove that, to give that confidence that there's no vendor risk. You guys aren't going to go out of business at any time soon, run out of cash to run your business, or get acquired by a strategic partner, as we said in the startup world. That meant you were failing. It's amazing how clarifying that is when you have to sell, or you're selling a alpha. Sorry for you people who aren't in the software world, but an alpha or beta quality product that's being sold as a 3.0 release, even though that's utter excrement. So that's where the real learning happens, right? I went to startups for the reason everyone did back in the day. Like this was, I mean, it's almost scary to go back to that Wayback Machine, but this was Internet 1.0. This is with the Akamais and the pets.coms and the, you know, the Netscapes and all that. And I was it was very pragmatic. I was in a privately held company. It was never going to go public. It still hasn't gone public to this day because it was a cash machine. So they didn't need outside capital. And the owner was good at his job. And he ran a good company. And my whole sales team, I was overseeing, running. I was accompanying the most high performing sales team in our world was not because of me. Believe me, when I was first made a manager, I didn't ask, and I was just making mistakes left and right. But I kind of got my legs underneath me. But I had a great performing team, and that was part of the problem. The internet was exploding. All these guys wanted to have equity and FU money, if I can say that, and we couldn't hold them because they're like, "Look, I love making a good commission, but I want wealth from equity." Yeah. So I lost my entire team. They're like, you can't hold me. And and we're in Boston. So the startups were everywhere. And these guys were getting picked off left and right by recruiters. And I finally said, well, if you can't beat them, join them. But I also was getting bored. Executing against the territory and doing the sales manager's job. Yeah. It's a hard job. It's not very gratifying. But I wanted to do more, problem solving and exercise muscles I wasn't allowed to execute. But I went to early stage. I went to really early stage, unfunded. So I got to go. I sat through a lot of VC meetings. Yeah, there was 9 of us trying to get an A round. So that's where I got my education on business. Right.
I was going to ask you. So could you touch on something? Because one of the things that happens is, right, you made this move into the startup space. But you talked about some things that are real, and I speak to potential clients all the time, and it's like, all right, look, if you work at big 3-letter German company that I did for 16 years, or love other companies, you love those kinds of companies, right? So, but when you do that for a decade or 2 decades almost, and then you have this there's this voice inside of you that's like, hey, you can also do something else. Cause you've got the territory, you've got the time, you got the talent, you got it all moving, and you've got it pretty much on the calendar. And there's still other things that you want to do, but there's this reality that is like, hey, listen, if you're not working for this very large company, great balance sheet, that maybe you think everyone's opening the door because it's you, right? This guy for a while. And then you realize, oh my gosh, well, when I don't have this company brand or business card for people that are still using business cards, what's going to happen? Will I still be able to perform? Will I not? All of this self-doubt and this imposter syndrome starts to come through. Yeah. But it sounds like for you that you went through that anyway. And it sounds like you came out stronger on the back end of that. And so if that is in fact the case, talk to us about what happens when you come out of the back end of the startup world and maybe what it set you up for now.
Yeah, without question. There's a certain amount of risk when you go to a startup, right? Because even though you're not the founder, it's will this thing last and all that, but you didn't even think about that. But, what I realized was the things I was learning, right? Without having all that air cover, that you could do this. It was a lot of hours, right? Early stage startups, a lot of hours, but hard work is what I did in my previous companies. You start to understand what risk means. You start to get a better sense of the risk equation. I didn't go there for what we call W-2 income in the States, right? For my paycheck. I was really there for the equity. And that's blind. There's a lot of hope there. A lot of startups, the reality is a lot of startups don't have an exit. But what I learned really quickly was I was learning things by just being in that environment of less and working under some very, very capable, talented people. My proximity to the CEO was something I'd never have in a big company. Yeah. But I got a sense of risk, right? And I realized that the risk, I was in 4 startups, 5 including my company. You start to understand that the risk is not going to kill you. You start to understand that I've got a lot of stock that was worthless, right? I did have, some of my stock that I exercised wound up being a few $100,000. It wasn't the millions I was hoping for. And I was fine with that because I realized that the equity that I really realized in those startups was all that learning I would have never have gotten right? In the big companies.
Hang on. Somebody's running on the treadmill. They just missed what you said. It was pure platinum, like literally pure platinum. And it wasn't related to just money in the bank account. Eric, would you please repeat what you just said, what you learned?
Yeah. Well, my two big learnings were I learned what risk really meant. I really got a real sense of what risk meant, my perception versus the reality. Yeah. I didn't die. I was in several startups that were shut down because they ran out of capital. And I was fine. I went to another startup, and I was more valuable to the next startup, having been through that early stage startup. I mean, people look at me like, holy crap. Like they look at me when they hear I grew up in Manhattan. They're like, people don't really do that, do they? So there was that. So the risk equation was much more flattened. The risk curve was flattened for me in my own perceptions of it. Yeah. But then the other thing was the equity I built in terms of the knowledge that I acquired and the experience that I acquired set me up. It set me up beautifully for me going out on my own. But that just made it less scary. But to be honest with you, all the things that I bank on now that I've made in terms of the content that I've formed, I didn't need to have that startup experience necessarily to do it. Because what I learned by going out on my own is that, the risk there was not as bad as you thought it was, or, you weren't as exposed. Did I cover what we said originally?
You covered it exactly. You repeated it exactly. So if you're when you were running on the treadmill, you just caught it. He was very kind and he repeated it perfectly. And the thing that's going on in my mind right now, Eric, is you're talking about you're understanding more of the risk equation. And as I speak to clients or potential clients a lot, they talk about like so much is going on in my life. Like I'm thinking about getting married, or just been married short amount of time, or we're thinking about having kids, or maybe going to have more kids. And so it seems like everyone waits for the perfect moment to try to figure things out. Did you have the perfect moment each time when things so everything was perfect for you when you were going through these
not
changes?
Even close. To your point, I went to my first unfunded startup, right? Trying to seek an A round of financing. I was working on angel money when my kids were 2 years old, something like that. Maybe three. It's not a good time to go to an early stage startup. The risk there financially, right? Offered the company I came from 6% 401k match, pretty much guaranteed income. I was just in a rhythm. Yep. That was money. No idea whether this startup was even going to survive. If it didn't get financing, it had maybe 9 months of burn, and then it was going to be hard decisions. And yet it was the best decision of my life. In fact, it was a terrible time to do it, right? It was, I mean, one might even call it irresponsible, right? You've got young kids. My wife was still working at the time, part-time. But no, man, it was on paper. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. And that turned out that startup was the most influential on my thinking because of my proximity to the CEO. What I learned from this guy, Harvard Business School, who earned it. Timing is a myth in our heads that we got to wait for the perfect time. There is no perfect time, especially if there's risk, right? There's no perfect time, but you don't die, right? I mean, what's the worst? It was like when I started my company, Kensei, and they came up with Lexicon. We didn't know if we'd make it past the first year, and and it turns out we did. But, and so what if we didn't, right? I know how to make money.
Yeah. And, it's really interesting because I'd love for you to speak to that person who's listening and thinking to myself, Eric, but maybe you're different, right? Like maybe you just had something and I say this only because there are moments in my life where I was like, oh man, I'm so different. And then I start talking to so many different people that are going through the exact same thought process and are in the similar life situation. And they make different decisions, right? We're all different in that regard, but there's a lot of things that are the same. And so what do you say to that person that is just really, I say it's like you're waiting for all the stoplights to turn green before you start moving because you're afraid to make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it's very human, right? I mean, and I've got, genetic gifts of OCD and ADD, and just like everybody else, I guess, to a certain degree. And I got my own like childhood traumas around money and scarcity and risk. I'm very risk averse as a person. I am very risk averse, and yet, no. What I'd say to that person is, all the fear in your head, all the anxiety is real. All the risk, scenarios you can construct, sure, those are possible, but the reality of the situation is that you don't die. And the reality is, I mean, if you're the type of person that's saying, I'd like to do this, I'd like to give it a shot, I'm curious about taking this path, I want to work for myself. And I mean, once you do and it works, there is nothing like it. There is nothing like not working for yourself, not having a boss, having complete autonomy over your decisions, which means you have complete failure is on you, but success is on you. Yeah. You have to taste it, right? Yeah. It's like hitting a golf ball correctly for the first time. You're like, oh my God, I want that feeling again. But yeah, I mean, I think, to your point, none of us are that different. The fears are, I always hear the same thing. I've been asked a million times, hey, what's it like doing what you do? I'm thinking of doing it. What do I have to know? And I'm like, you've got to know that it's not that scary, unless you, I don't know, if you push all your chips in on black and that was, hoping the roulette wheel hits that and you're bankrupt and you don't die. Yeah. If people are listening to this podcast, if people are inclined to this, the seed has already been germinated. You just need someone to give you the pinky push to say, just jump. There's no way you're going to learn unless you just jump. But yeah. I think the thought process is the same with all of us.
Yeah, I appreciate you hitting on that. And then it comes back to one of the things you were talking about at the very beginning, which is there's this whole theory and then there's the reality. And so the only way that you figure out like if what you think can be the case is that you go and you try, you do, not try, you do. And then you get the result, and you adjust along the way, which is probably what has made you extremely successful in your corporate career. And yes, the logos will be gone and all that other kind of stuff. But hey, guess what? You're going to figure it out anyway. And speaking of which, so we've talked about a couple of times, and you've mentioned there is what you're doing now, and I talked about at the very beginning. Like personally, you have. And I think it's over 23,000. I think that's probably an outdated number that you have personally been able to help
approaching
to elevate.
24.
Okay, all right, approaching 24. All right. That's
still
fine.
A really scary number.
I mean, it's crazy. It's just
people.
Insane. It's insane.
I can't even believe it sometimes. But
I think all you have to do is go to your LinkedIn profile and you just see all of the ways that you are positively impacting and elevating the sales professional way that we do things. So. You have, I think it's close to 2 decades now.
Yeah.
Which
17 years. Coming up on 17 years.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so talk to us about it. I mean, you're living now in the B2B space, in the tech space. It's where you got your roots, where you started in this safer kind of space. Then you went into the startup space, and then you've come out and you realize, hey, listen, this is something I want to do on my own. And now you're elevating sales professionals around the globe, some of the largest brands in the world. If you want, you can talk about them. But talk to us about just this, your passion, your obsession with sales execution, training, consulting, and also the creation of the Lexicon sales method. I really want you to talk about that.
Oh, thank you for that. No, it was an evolution. So I tell everybody, and it's not a story, it's not a gimmick, it's not meant to be trite, but I tell everybody, I do what I do because I'm angry. And I mean it. What am I angry at? I'm angry that the sales orthodoxy has left out some really critical things that we in B2B, especially enterprise B2B sales, need to know. It's not a question when you say it out loud. It's like, yeah, why the hell haven't we been taught that or been accountable for that? But my objective is to right the wrongs. I know that sounds a little bit, waxing a bit messianic here, but right the wrongs that are so insanely patently obvious in our profession. And so, to me, I'm like, okay, if I can control the content, if I'm the arbiter of what I do, and then we'll see if it works and the market wants it. It's like, I need to teach the stuff that that none of us have learned. Like there's three glaring holes in every salesperson's game in the enterprise B2B space, especially, but in B2B sales, is we're financially illiterate, period. I've got almost 24,000 data points. I know what you're looking for. And almost 24,000 data points personally of going, and then literally 33 countries. I've been sent all over the world. There it is. My favorite foil, the book that I recommend to every single salesperson.
And you've got to be watching the video version. Watch the video version, and you will know what
I should not even say the names of the video, but no, financial intelligence. I'm going to say it. But the one pervasive theme, and I've been refining this over the last 17 years with my clients and learning from my clients and adapting and all this, is that all enterprise B2B salespeople that I've ever encountered, I'm not going to speak for everyone in the world, but I have a very, very big random sample, are financially illiterate. Don't know the basics of corporate finance, which means, to your point you made earlier, Billy, we're on the revenue side of the business. Yep. We're responsible for the revenue. Yep. That nothing happens if the revenue doesn't come in, right? We don't have to worry about profits if the revenue is not coming in. And we can't function with a sales process alone. And the problem with sales processes is that they only really work when there's demand. It only really works when someone's in the market or saying, I want to talk, I want to demo, I want to quote, or, we are investigating. Because no one would ever put up with the requirement that we have to qualify and discover. And because that's all extractive, right? Yep. The only people willing to participate in that are people saying, I'll deal with that because I may want what you're selling. So that was one big aha moment. It's like, we have to fix this. Like, we're selling with one arm tied behind our back. And the other problem was, and we'll get to the Lexicon thing, but I focused heavily on engaging executives, economic decision makers, but the people who can allocate capital, not manage to a budgetary requirement, because that opens up so much more money to access that should be or could be finding its way to your company. But that's one big piece of it. But the other piece of it is, we're not taught, enterprise B2B sales is project and program management, if you really boil it down, if you're doing it right. Mm-hmm. The people on the other side of the table are doing due diligence if it's a high risk enterprise technology that could break things or could not give the returns you want. They call it due diligence. They call it a project to make that decision. We call it an opportunity. We have different nomenclature. We have different language, but we don't give them something they want, which is guide me as if I hired you as a consultant that was independent to make a decision on these vendors. And, we're all told to be consultative and all that and trusted advisors, which is ridiculous, given how we're trained. And the third thing is, we're in a communications-based profession. Yep. This is where Lexicon came from, is that we trade on language and communication. That's really all we do. We're not the subject matter experts in terms of the product, and we're not the pre-sales person. We're not the value engineer. We're not the industry principal. We're not the enterprise architect or business architect. We are the ones with the tip of the spear. We got to fill the top of the funnel. We got to engage people that don't want to talk to us, mainly the C-level, if we're selling something strategic. So anyway, there's this big morass, like this huge opening, like gap in the game. And I'm like, I can't fill the whole thing, but I'm going to make an attempt to do so. And so what I found is that I'm in a really weird little niche. No one really does this. And I'm still astonished no one really does this, because I'm just teaching fundamental corporate finance, but putting it in the context of a selling motion, but not a selling motion that's predictable, because no one cares about the salesperson until they do, and they want to get rid of you. Yep. But the movies about our profession exist for a reason. We're not portrayed as Madame Curie or Abraham Lincoln, or we're portrayed as buffoons, like we're Tommy Boy, or we're slick like Baldwin's character or the Wolf of Wall Street. We're not really a beloved cohort, for the people out there, which means we're very defensive by nature. Yeah. Like the Rolex, why is there a Rolex, authorized distributor, whatever the hell they're called, in Vegas and in Hawaii and all that? Because we have to buy that thing when we go to club to tell everybody else what time it is. We don't use it to tell the time. But anyway, so that gave way to me saying, I can do whatever I want. If you call me a sales influencer, those are fighting words. I don't want to be even concluded in that cohort, because I'm not really teaching sales. I'm teaching business to the revenue side of the business, if you get my wordplay there. But anyway, so what gateway to Lexicon was, it was Kensei Partners for many years. And there's a long story behind that.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that isn't the brand. And what business am I really in? I promise I'll bring this tie a bow on this. But I realized I wasn't in the training business. I was in the language business, because salespeople don't say, busy unquoted salespeople who are at 36,000 feet don't say, hey, let's work on the engines. It's like, don't tell me what to know. Knowledge is big. Knowledge is disruptive. It's not execution oriented. Tell me what to say. Tell me what to say. Let me see how it compares how I currently communicate. If it's better, I'll try it.
Yep.
And love us or hate us, that's how we change. That's how we execute. And so Lexicon came to me one day. I was like, I'm in the language business. Sales has a dialect that no one else speaks besides us. And we have to speak a lexicon. We have to speak the lexicon of the executives. We have to speak the lexicon of, the people lower in the org chart. We got to speak the lexicon of the partners. But at the end of the day, everything boils down to language. And, Billy, I've been very lucky. And I realize I sound like a professional athlete here now, but I've been very lucky that I've worked with massive clients, probably bigger than I deserve to work with, who had unbelievable resources and talent that I was given access to, and that I was allowed to collaborate with. And I was allowed to, co-author a lot of content based on what they do that happened to be applicable across the board. It was a long answer. I took up a lot of air there, but that's the story.
And so so there's a couple different things, and I'll start with the end in mind. So I put this book up, Financial Intelligence, because you mentioned it already. And so I bought this book. I'm actually looking back in this. This is believe it or not, this is back in 2007. 2006. This is 2006, Barcelona, 2006. And I believe that came from your recommendation back in the day. And so when I start thinking about what you mentioned, right, in terms of you are angry, it's really about the same skill set. And I think about a lot of the sales profession. It is about identifying opportunities, right? Identifying problems and coming up with creative solutions to those problems. You weren't given the opportunity. If you allow me to gently push back on what you said, you earned the opportunity to help large organizations get their language correct, get their lexicon correct, so that they can communicate more efficiently as well as effectively with the person that they had in front of them, whether they're sitting at the top, the C, which is a lot of what you do. But as you mentioned also too, as you begin to trickle down through the organization, you also need to have the right lexicon to communicate with them effectively as well, because you're there making sure that you move all the way up. And so, as I mentioned, since this is my show, I'm allowed to push back and say, hey, absolutely. Look, you earned it. You earned it. You earned it. So nowadays, one of the things that I'm like, connecting the dots, right? In the very beginning, you talked about, this ability to have more control. You talked about the risk equation. You talked about things not being absolutely perfect, but there's an opportunity. So you take it. You talked about being able to recognize that you may not always have the biggest brand, but it is about what is it that you can do to add value, whether you're managing a project, you're managing a program. You must be financially literate in order to make the impact in the space that you want to play, especially when you're in the sales and sales leadership space. But as you look forward, right, and you think about that person who's listening to us and they're thinking, wow, Eric, man, you've done all this stuff, but you had a really kind of cool, cushy job in the very beginning, and you've like explored areas of fear. You did things when they weren't the perfect conditions. You had life changes, 2 young kids, unfunded startup, and you're still here.
Still here and
still thriving, right? May not be perfect.
Never is.
And you're making a positive impact at the highest levels. So what do you think what has been the biggest, I guess, learning for you up until this point? And then we're going to get ready to start to land the plane, as they say. But I'd love for you to share with us what's been your biggest learning through this 3-decade journey so far.
That's a good question. That's a big question. Because it's a lot, a lot of it is this accumulation, right, of micro learning and these experiences that start to accumulate. But one of the biggest things, I think the biggest thing I learned was most of this is in your head. Most of your fear, most of your what keeps you from doing things, most of that inner voice that says this is too much risk, or this will never work, or who's going to pay to hear you talk, dude? Most of it is in your head. If you're even the type of person who says, I want to work for I want to put myself out there, I want to do this, you already have made up in your mind, even if it's in the back of your mind, that you have something to offer, right? Otherwise, you'd never do it. I mean, to your point, Billy, the software company I was in was safe. It was so safe. It's the company. This is the type of company that I know. I have very good friends that are still there. Have been there 30 years, and that's more the standard, not the exception. Yeah. And I left that, very much on my own. But yeah, man, you realize that inner voice, most of our inner voices isn't saying, do it, go, jump, you got this. Most of our inner voice is, this is too scary, don't do it, and all that. Learning how to understand yourself and manage your own brain, manage your own, inner narrative, and have faith, right, in what you bring to the party, along with the clarity of what you're really good at. Like being brutally honest with yourself about what your strengths really are. But yeah, I mean, I look back now and I feel like I jumped to my first startup and I hadn't thought it through. I really hadn't thought it all the way through, and I did it anyway. So that was more on instinct or impulse. It felt right. Yeah. Best decision I ever made in my life. We only made it a year. The internet bottom dropped out of Internet 1.0, and they'd lay everybody off. I wouldn't trade that year for anything. That is the foundation of a lot. I draw on that all the time for what I'm doing now. But yeah, mostly it's been managing what's up here. Yeah. And getting out of my own way, because everyone there's EQ, there's IQ, but everyone's got a story. Yeah. Whether or not people will pay for it, well, you'll figure that out. But the fact is that I'm coaching people now who are asking me left and right, should I do this? I want to do what you do and all that. And I'm like, okay, you've got to tell me. You're not going to do what I do. You're not going to do what I do. You're not me. We're different. I can give you a baseline, but what do you bring into the party? I got this young kid. He's smart as hell, and he's like, I like to partner, work off your brand, be a partner. And I'm like, sure. I've been really busy. I've been traveling, and he's now monetizing his own stuff. And he's realizing, holy crap, I don't need you. He didn't say that, but It's what he was saying. I said, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you. I want to continue to talk forever. I know that I can talk to you because I can talk to you off camera, but
whenever you want.
Everybody else, everybody else is kind of like, oh man, just keep talking. So this has been amazing, an amazing interaction, and hearing your story from, I would say almost like the corporate cushiness that you had to being able to listen to that voice and that future signal, I like to call that was calling you, and you were able to break through and move through. Hasn't been perfect, like I said, but a lot of positive things and a positive impact, and elevating the thinking of sales professionals around the globe at the highest levels. But one of the things that I've started realizing in this kind of season of the podcast, right, after 5 years and 560 some odd episodes, is I really would like to be able to be here, because I never thought, Eric, that this podcast would make it 5 years or 500 and some odd episodes.
Yeah. It's impressive.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It is.
But it's one of the things that I started realizing now, like, if I could have told myself something 5 years ago, like, what would I have said, knowing that things were they're going to be highs and there's going to be some lows, and I've really gone through some low lows.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
I want to ask you what message, let's imagine you and I get back here 3 years from now. We're having another check in. And the thing is I want you to leave yourself a message. Like, what is the message that you're going to leave Eric Shaver 3 years from now that's going to help him either take it to the next level, break through the fear, break through whatever? What is the message that you want to leave yourself?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You're catching me at a really good time for this question too, because I spent the last 16, 17 years doing something successful and therefore safer and predictable. And I should have written a book 2 years ago. I've had people bugging me left and right. Write the book, write the book, write the book. You're posting on LinkedIn all the time. Put these ideas into more format. When are you going to make yourself agentic? When are you going to do the online courses? Because, dude, you don't scale. Like you're a really well kept secret. The only people who know you are your clients, and because of my own wiring, I've kept it that way. But I'm hitting a new fear plateau, right? Losing control. If I put videos out there, when I'm in front of people, I'm in control. If you've got a beef, you got a question, whatever, let's handle it right here and now, and I'll do that, and I'll be open minded, but I'm in control. The message for me would be, just do those things now, right? You have no idea what's around the corner. You don't need any more validation that there is a market. I'm not for everyone. I am not for everyone. I scare a lot of people away with this corporate finance stuff, and not everybody's ready to do this. But it's like, dude, what the hell are you waiting for? To your point, what I've learned from you is, cash flow is everything, right? I know how to get in front of people and get paid for that event. I know how to make that happen again and again and again. But that's a very labor intensive process. I have intellectual property that I should be monetizing. I got you over my shoulder saying, what the hell are you waiting for, man? This is all unrealized cash flow. And so, yeah, my message to me is, the only thing keeping you from doing that is going back to that initial fear, right? I gave myself a paradigm where I was in control and I was comfortable with it. Now that I'm getting to a place where I'm a little organically uncomfortable, it's slowing me down, and it just makes no sense that I haven't done this yesterday. So the message, maybe 3 years from now, I should be saying to myself, how much money have you counted in terms of cash flow and passive income since since that podcast with Billy? And that number better not be zero. Better not be the human in the loop that I am right now. Yeah.
There you go. So it's interesting, right? I think about one of the first things, what you just talked about, right? Being able to have more control. I think about the beginning of the conversation. I even have it written here on my paper, right? Control. I mentioned before, you talked about risk mitigation and took us through that whole thought process. And that's what you were doing. And also realizing that the equity that you were gaining was not necessarily in the financial equity, but it was more in the knowledge, right? Yeah. Because you took a risk. You went from corporate cushy into startup space, realizing that, hey, listen, this is something, this knowledge, no one can ever take it away from me, regardless of the brand that's behind me. The knowledge, the impact that I can make when I'm in front of the highest level executive of the Fortune 500 or the Fortune 50, no one can ever take that away from you, because that knowledge, that is your equity. And then it took you even beyond that to realize that, hey, listen, you're really not happy about what's happening with the sales profession. And the fact that the sales professionals are providing roles, ongoing roles for everybody in the organization, but somebody's not really been taking care of us. And so you have taken that on yourself to recognize and say, what can you do to elevate the sales profession? Help us to also make greater impact and secure roles for people around the world, right? Because when sales is clicking, everybody's happy. And so you've done it to the point that now you are not only driving with what's happening at Kinsey Partners, but more importantly, and focused on continuing to expand the Lexicon sales method. I know that I get to talk to you, but I know with all this stuff that you've shared with us, everybody wants to know, Eric, please help us understand, how in the world can we get in touch with you? So please share with us how everybody can get in touch with you, find out more about you, find out more about what you've got going on at Lexicon Sales Method, everything, man.
Well, hey, thanks for that opportunity. Yeah. So like everybody else, you'll find me on LinkedIn. And that's one of the best ways to also get a sense of, what I believe and all that, just by looking at the information I put out there. But yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest way because everyone's there. Info at Lexicon Sales is the other path to find your way into my inbox. That's mainly it. I really focus, right? I'm not on Instagram and all that, but and that's why, love it or hate it, LinkedIn is the business network, and that's the best place to go. So follow me, DM me, send me an info at Lexicon Sales, and I can chat. I love to talk to people who are ready, right, to address the elephant in the room. Yep. So man, I love the opportunity to do that if that's where you are.
All right. Fantastic. Well, listen, and also I'm going to make an ask of everybody that is listening, because you're a global audience. Eric is a global leader, amazing person. When you reach out to him, notice I didn't say if, but when you reach out to him on LinkedIn, do yourself and Eric a favor. Let him know that you've already invested time, effort, and energy in taking in today's episode. It's going to help you, and it's going to help Eric continue the conversation, not start it, continue it, right? So just do yourself that favor, do Eric that favor, and let him know, send him the love from the Going Long family, and just let him know you've already listened. And as you connect, and I'm sure getting great value from Eric, his wisdom, I know it's going to be awesome for you. And so Eric, my mentor, my friend, I would like to say on behalf of the entire Going Long family, thank you very, very, very much for deciding to invest time with me and with us today. Thanks a lot, man.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.
All right. And take care, everybody. Make it a great day.